Hello everyone and welcome to Razors and Diapers. Based on request from some of our parents, we have decided to introduce a new show called Fathers and Family. So we'll be running a series with Dr. Percy Ricketts, who is a professional counselor, does very well working with parents and families. I actually met Dr. Ricketts while I was out in Fort Lauderdale earlier this year at the 14th International Fatherhood Conference. Dr. Ricketts, just tell me what I'm missing. Tell me about your experience with the type of work that you're doing there in Florida.
Well, first of all, I'm originally from Jamaica, but I've been living here in the States for over 20 years. And I'm a psychotherapist and a national board certified clinical hypnotherapist. I work with children, I work with adolescents, and I work with adults. I work with individuals, couples, and families. And I work specifically with fathers as well.
Tell us some of the trends that you're seeing in regards to fatherhood and fathers.
Okay, what I've been seeing lately is that with the economy, and I think it's a global economy that's really bad right now, initially, a couple of years ago, the divorce rate went down, but it's now going back up again. Here in the States, it's common statistics that roughly a half of all first marriages end in divorce, typically within the first 8 to 10 years. And after those first marriages end, most people will remarry a second time. Those second marriages end a lot more quickly. And for those who marry a third time, third marriages end even quicker than first or second. So the more times people marry, the more likely it is that their marriage isn't going to work. And so what we find here in the United States, for example, is that 1 million couples divorce every year and over 1 million children are affected, adversely affected. So the trend nowadays is that marriages are not lasting as long as they're supposed to. In fact, many social scientists are saying that in the years to come, based on current trends, what's going to happen is that marriage is going to be a renewable type of arrangement where there's a contract that people sign for a couple of years, maybe 3 to 5 or whatever they decide on. And then depending on how that goes, they renew the vows for another period of time. So it's going to be real monogamy. Affects children because children are permanent, they're not renewable. And we know that when families break down, when divorce occurs, children are the ones who suffer the most. And they suffer throughout their lives to the extent that when they marry as well, children of divorce are more likely to divorce.
Right. In terms of the connection that a father is able to maintain with a child after or even during divorce, what are you seeing?
Well, typically what we find here is that mothers would get custody and fathers get visitation. But here in the state of Florida, where I am, for example, there was a major change in that regard on October 1st of 2008. And what the law calls for now is what we call time sharing, equal time with dad and equal time with mom.
Okay.
The initial thought was based on what they call the tender years doctrine.
Okay.
Suggested that mothers were more nurturing and caring, so they should take care of the children. However, we now know that fathers are just as nurturing and caring as mothers.
I love that.
Mothers have a maternal instinct, fathers have a paternal instinct. It's not the same, but where the nurturing aspect is concerned, they're both nurturing and caring. So the thought nowadays is that children should spend equal time with moms and equal time with dad, and that's the law in the state of Florida right now.
The men that you come across, do you find them generally interested in fathering, in parenting?
Absolutely. You know, it's so funny the way nature is set up. Men cannot get pregnant, they don't give birth or breastfeed. However, one of the things that research has shown is that after a child is born, it evens out because it's the father's influence that is tremendously significant. And children who are raised without fathers, there's a lot of statistics that tells you how they suffer a great deal. So fathers are very important, and most of the fathers with whom I've worked
Right.
have a vested interest in caring for their children, but sometimes there are numerous barriers that are preventing them from doing so.
And what help is out there? I'm sure including what you do as well. But what help is out there to help fathers sort of maintain that influence, that positive engagement with their kids?
There's a lot of help available, but I think the way men are socialized in our society, that's one of the barriers as well. It tells them that there's this notion that if you seek help, it's because you're weak and you're not in control and so on. So even though the help might be available, mothers usually utilize whatever service are available more than fathers. So I think we need to encourage the fathers more, let them know what resources are available and encourage them to make full use of them. Mothers also have a very important role to play in encouraging the fathers, and rather than criticizing, to help them to be more involved in their kids' lives. Because I think a lot of times you hear what fathers are not doing, but you don't hear what some fathers are doing.
Right.
The tendency is to focus on father absence rather than on father presence.
When we talk and focus so much on the negative, that's really what drives even the father's interaction. Because I'm thinking, if I'm always being told that I need to do more, that I'm not being a good father, then somehow doesn't that affect me psychologically in thinking that, oh well, people don't think it anyway, so might as well I just don't do it.
Absolutely. And not only that, it sends the wrong message to our boys, because one of the trends we find nowadays as well, Pete, is that some mothers are telling some fathers, I can do this without you, I don't need you. So if you're sending the message to boys that they are not needed, we shouldn't be too surprised when they grow up and they have these kids and they're not caring for them. The message should be that you're needed and I want you to be just as involved as I am. That should be the message that mothers are sending.
I've seen so many articles, especially in recent years, that seem to be suggesting that men and fathers are not even needed anymore.
It's not even debatable nowadays, because we know two things about fathers. We know that they're essential and we know that they're irreplaceable. Essential means that when they are not there, kids are harmed. And irreplaceable means that there's nothing else that can replace that father, right? And so we have to make sure that we keep that in the forefront. Kids need their fathers just as much as they need their mothers. Fathers bring something to the parenting table that mothers cannot bring. A mother can do all she can. It's still in the context of motherhood. Fathers bring something that cannot be replaced by a mother. So that should be our mantra, that kids need both their moms and their fathers. Sometimes relationships don't work out. People get into relationships for all kinds of reasons. They end for all kinds of reasons. But because a relationship between the adults isn't going well, the children should not have to suffer. So I would say, even if fathers have to use the courts to stay involved in their children's lives, they should use whatever resources are available to still remain in their children's lives, to make sure that the kid still has a relationship, a positive relationship with both the mother and the father, to treat the mother with respect, and for the mother to treat him with respect as well, because what we're really doing is modeling good relationships for the children.
Next week we'll be talking about the effects of fatherlessness. For example, I grew up without my dad, so how can we get men who are in that position to break that trend and to be the best parents that they can be? So Dr. Ricketts, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk again next week.
Always a pleasure, Pete. Take